Welcome. Today we are here to examine a part of our past that has been erased, remembered only by the count of one woman, known only to society by her alias, Offred. This is a true story, but mankind is too ashamed to believe it to be true. It is about the people who were not in the papers, who lived in the blank white spaces at the edges of print. They lived in the gaps between the stories. Join us as we examine this. The decision in choosing to believe this is up to you. Our story begins in a small town with a mother, a working woman. She was just like any other woman in society, wanting the same things. This woman is now known to us simply as Offred. Offred had a typical life for a woman in their society before everything changed. She was raised by her feminist single mother, went to college, got married, and had a child.
Women back then wanted freedom. They were struggling for equality, to have the opportunities that the men had.
It was natural for Offred to have a job. She was merely participating in the culture. She was merely looking for fulfillment. That was before the catastrophe, before everything changed.
In the beginning, they kept on telling them to be calm, that everything would be under control. But everything was not under control. The entire government was gone, just like that. That's when they suspended the Constitution. They said it would be temporary. There wasn't even any rioting in the streets. People stayed home at night, watching television, looking for some direction. There wasn't an enemy you could put your finger on.
Then came the catastrophe, when they shot the president and machine-gunned the Congress and the army declared a state of emergency. They blamed it on the Islamic fanatics at the time. Before long, newspapers were censored and roadblocks began to appear.
The thing is, the women and the people began to think they deserved it. They kept on asking themselves, what was it about this that made us feel we deserved it? It was as if the guilt stemmed up from nowhere. They were believed to have done nothing wrong. It is similar to multiple novels, such as The Crucible by Arthur Miller. Society thought those that they trusted were practicing witchcraft, even though they were blameless.
Everything changed for Offred. The stability she once knew was dissolved with the implication of this new regime.
There was an extreme change in what roles the women occupied. They no longer were valued based on their skills and their jobs, but rather judged by the condition of their ovaries. Life for the woman, known then as handmaids, was focused on the ability to conceive. Without that ability, they were deemed worthless and sent away to the colonies, or the land of unwomen. There is not enough information to define what the colonies actually consisted of, but it is known that it was not a place that a handmaid wished to be.
Offred was sent to the Red Center, a place to be trained for her role as a handmaid by the aunts, specifically Aunt Lydia. It is here that they learned the norms that would from then on govern their existence, and where everything their new job consisted of would become ordinary. They were constantly reminded of the privilege it was to be there, how much joy they should feel just by being able to participate in these roles.
The Red Center was a place that the new handmaids lost their identity, a place where they were supposed to lose any tie that they once had with their past. They were forced to be part of the religion of the Republic of Gilead, centered in the city formerly known as Cambridge, attempting to be the city on the hill once again. The place where all others would look up as a source of inspiration. Here again, there is another tie to a novel. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, a modern Prometheus. Like Frankenstein, his actions were to show the world his intelligence. He wished to unlock mankind's potential and display to the world all that he can become. Offred was a handmaid who disagreed with these new regulations. She constantly held on to her past, her husband Luke, her daughter, and her best friend Myra. By constantly holding on to her past, she was unable to believe in the future. As a handmaid, Offred was responsible for conceiving a child with the commander, with the permission of the wife, Serena Joy. It was thought through a process known as the ceremony, but in order to keep this G, we will not disclose any further information.
For a handmaid, daily life was simple in its own way. She woke up, she had breakfast brought to her by the Martha, she put on red gloves, finger by finger. Everything except the wings around her face was red, the color of blood, which defined them. She would go on walks with Uglen, simple walks to get food from the market. But there were no words, only signs, since reading was not allowed. She took naps afterwards, her time alone in order to think about her past, her present, and what more she could do about her future.
The government really had become an all-powerful dictatorship, but without a figurehead. They were controlling force behind everything, the power of the commanders, the authority of the eyes, even the careful structure of the handmaids. You knew they existed, but you weren't quite sure where. There were hints, though.
The wall displaying the dead bodies cloaked in stark white, of people who had wronged the new morals of this utopian society. The soul scrolls where people used a compuphone to have a machine recite their prayers. Ordering prayers was supposed to be a sign of piety and faithfulness to the regime.
Thus, the government was once again responsible for the superficiality of religion. It wasn't about real belief. It was about showing other people that you were concerned about your social standing, to help your husband's career, and you prayed because it was popular. The forced aspect of religion caused a distinct separation from true faith, and a feigned faith. Government was not only in control of religion, but also ensured that the handmaids understood the magnitude of their power. A particular was a public homicide of those who have disobeyed the set rules of the regime. 2 guardians would let go of the men's arms and step back, allowing these humans to become degraded just to its. Hundreds of handmaids, at that moment, are permitted to do anything that they wish to these men. It was the little bit of freedom that they were given.
A particular was anything but civil. It was the only way that the handmaids could truly express their feelings, but through violence.
According to the government, Offred's relationship with the commander was strict, short, and devoid of any emotional connection. However, theorizing about controlling people and actually controlling people are 2 completely different concepts. Therefore, there will always be people that push the rules and boundaries to see what they can get away with. It was inevitable that Offred was eventually to make some sort of connection to the commander. After their monthly trysts, because of the position of power that gave him leeway to overstep certain restrictions. Thus, we saw the initiation of their late-night meetings.
Behind the heavy door of the commander's office, Offred gained the freedom to think for herself. The 2 played Scrabble. This symbolized the accumulation of knowledge and the opportunity to advance herself. She mastered persuasion and gained remnants from her past, like hand lotion, magazines, and even a picture of her child.
These meetings are the epitome of a search for an identity. This was a break in the regime and the conforming nature of the society. It was a way to define herself amongst the anonymity of the society. Here again, there's a tie to a novel, Alice Walker's The Color Purple. Celie, the narrator, lives her whole life without defining herself, forced to forsake her identity as a woman to appease the people around her. This is what Offred is forced to deal with. She has lost her identity amongst the sea of handmaids. Much like Celie's creation of a business, these meetings allow Offred to define herself and build a new identity, essential to sustaining her happiness.
Things were back to normal, or so it seemed, until a black van appeared. She could make out the white eye, the 2 wings. She heard the bell toll down in the hall. She was told to go with them. It's a Mayday. It will be fine. The reason behind her capture was violation of state secrets. Nothing more, nothing less. And so she stepped up into the darkness within, or else the light.
Go.